screaming, and the raft popped. A man appeared in front of her. His eyebrows were furrowed and his lips. She couldn't swim backward fast enough. No, he was racing for her leggings. How did he know she had them? He must have been one of the men who was near her on the side of the raft. The man struggled through the waves to grasp her arm, the arm holding the leggings. She had to get away. Did he mean to drown her for a pitiful float for a pair of flimsy pants? While there were sharks swirling in the water around them and people dying? Let go, she screamed at the top of her lungs. Give me that, he yelled. The leggings float deflated in her hand. Go, Bobby, she shrieked, pushing his body with her feet and twisting her arm. You pig! She tore her arm loose and sank deep under the water. Her only hope was that she was a better swimmer than he was, and that, in the darkness, he couldn't find her if she swam away. She held her breath and swam deep and as far as her lungs would take her. While she was under, she could not hear the people or the splashing, and she could not feel the surface waves. It was strangely calm. She could feel only the pressure of the water around her whole body and the larger movement of the ocean swells. For a minute, she was free of the complex world above, free of the fear that someone else could take away what she was struggling so hard to keep. Here, away from the madness on the surface, she knew that she was truly alone. For her, she kept swimming underwater, though she needed air. Where were the sharks? They were busy, if they were there at all. She could not think about them, not until she had to. From now on, she vowed to herself, she would deal with problems only as they presented themselves, one small step at a time. Otherwise, she would make herself sick with worry. So what if there were sharks? She surfaced and drew a huge breath of air. The man was gone. She turned around to where she thought the raft was. It was gone too. And in its place, she saw shadows of heads bobbing, arms flailing, and bodies. The wailing and screaming had resumed, as had the violent shadows of men fighting, or sharks attacking men. She could not hear or see Catherine or Richard, but according to the new pact with herself, she was not going to worry about their fate, or anyone's fate, until she was safe. Please let them be okay, she whispered. Then she turned away. There was nothing for her here, the people, the bodies. Oh, excuse me. Would attract sharks all night, and she was too afraid to stay near the other desperate passengers. She would swim for shore and hope to intercept the rescue boats along the way. Chapter 13. In the darkness, Emily could not see the island of Way or the rugged coast of Sumatra. The moonlight was bright, but not bright enough to illuminate anything in the distance. Instead, the moon cast a bluish glow in a wide path from itself to Emily. It was only enough light to see her watch, and a glimmer of waves, only enough light for her to feel the expanse of empty ocean, without any indication that it would end. Still, she knew the land was there somewhere. She had seen it clearly from the upper deck of the ferry, and that when it became morning again, she would see both Sumatra and Way. So this is a good time to talk about elevation. So when she was on the upper deck of the ferry, she was way above the level of the water, and she could see both islands. Obviously, she saw the one because she was right next to it. But then when you're down at the level of the water, because of the curvature of the earth, unless you're a flat earther, because of the curvature of the earth, she won't be able to see as far. So she might not be able to see the islands at all. She twirled in a circle, slowly surveying the horizon. The swells lifted her in the peaks and lowered her in their troughs, so that when she could get a good view only for a few seconds at a time. Oh, excuse me. In the peaks she saw a light, a solitary speck of light from land far away. How far and which shore it was, she didn't care. The ferry had sunk somewhere between Sumatra and Way, so it had to be one of those, hadn't it? It had sunk after it traveled an hour or more, so she had to be far fewer than 18 miles from either coast, hadn't she? It might be 10 miles at most. She knew she could swim at least 2 miles without resting. That was about 140 laps in a 25-yard pool. Multiply that by 5, it would be very hard, especially in choppy water, but not impossible. Not impossible. Thank God the water was so warm. She knew that cool water was dangerous after a time, even for a good swimmer. She tied the deflated leggings to her camisole strap in the front, like an ugly black corsage. The silk leggings, they were nearly all that she had right now. In her mind, her life had begun in that locker, and she had been born into her new world with very little: an undershirt, a watch, a pair of underpants, and leggings. Like like a newborn baby born into poverty. But unlike an infant, who for years knows nothing about what luxuries the world can offer and innocently accepts what little is provided, she knew that plentiful food and home and comfort were rightly hers, and that she didn't have them. It was a cruel knowledge. She ached for her parents. She ached for everything that she normally had, and for what she had come to think would always be hers. Until tomorrow.